if Beth's family had a motto, it would be, oh my gosh, let's do that.
Camille has a capacity to love just in a way that it really is like everyone belongs, everyone's loved.
Andrea's family culture is really sweet on the outside, but horribly competitive and mean in the inside. They are so cute with their dimple, and then you play any game with them.
They take you down.
And Nielson will take you down.
Welcome to the Family Lab podcast, where we investigate all things parenting and home management. I'm Whitney Archibald, and today we're getting the band back together. By the band, I mean my favorite podcasting trio, Andrea Nielson, Beth Millward, and Camille Ward, who are the women behind the now retired but still fabulous podcast, Family Looking Up. These wonderful women gave us 278 delightful episodes for almost 5 years, and I used to look forward to Tuesdays so that I could download their latest episode. If you missed it, you can still listen to past episodes in your podcast app, and it's definitely worth checking out. These women brought the fun, laughter, and so much joy to the parenting conversation. But most importantly, they kept it real. I've been lucky enough to also count them as my friends over the years, so it was so fun to reunite with them to record this episode. One of the things I love about these women is that they're all so different and yet so compatible, kind of like a microcosm of how all of us can be, playing off each other's strengths and helping each other grow, admitting weaknesses, laughing at failures, and picking up the pieces together, while thoroughly enjoying the ride and each other. So Andrea Nielson has 4 kids from 16 to 24, 2 of whom are married now. Camille has 6 kids from 9 to 24, and almost 2 married as well. There's a wedding coming up soon. And Beth has 6 kids from 6 to 16. I add 5 more to the equation from 9 to 19. So among us, we have 20 children, which is a lot. Picking a topic for our conversation was really easy because it's something they all do so well, designing family culture. I've been wanting to do an episode about this because we all have a family culture, whether it's deliberate or not. What we like to do together, our particular brand of humor, our traditions, our values, our taste in movies, art, books, and music, even the way we argue and deal with conflict. It's actually pretty remarkable when you look around a neighborhood and think about all these microcultures existing together. But how often do we actually think about the culture that we're designing for our family, whether deliberate or not? Before I launch into our conversation, I wanted to remind you that there are still 4 more weeks left to attend one of my open lab sessions. This is basically just where I turn on the camera for an hour from 10 to 11 Mountain Time on Wednesdays. And so this will go through the end of April 30th. And then I'll take a break for the summer. I'm counting May as summer because May's crazy. So if you want to pop in, it's really informal. It's a chance to tell me about some of the experiments you're trying, to maybe get my help for some ideas, or just talk about episodes, really just to meet me. I would love to know who's listening because it's kind of a lonely world out in the podcast world where I'm just sending my voice out and I don't know who's listening. So if you're listening and you've been listening, I would love to meet you. Just pop on in. There's a link in the show notes. Okay, now it's time to talk family culture. Since Andrea, Beth, and Camille know each other so well, I thought it would be really fun for them to start out by describing each other's family cultures. First, we'll have Beth and Camille tell me how they would characterize Andrea's family culture.
So they're into crime and just generally low standards, I'd say.
That's perfect.
They just don't try that hard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's be serious now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Serious.
This is very serious.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea's family culture is really sweet on the outside, but horribly competitive and mean in the inside. They are so cute with their dimples and their sweet little words and their activity in the church. And then you play any game with them.
They take you down.
And which makes it worse is they have the ability to do so.
Yeah.
I will talk like I will take you down, but I will not take you down. But a Nielson will take you down.
Yeah. I'll never forget Andrea being like completely bewildered when we were talking about games and how you're not supposed to play a certain way, and she was like, I play to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
No, and I think honestly, no. I mean, there is definitely this great I think in any culture that you have within your family, that generally stems in many ways from ability. So because Andrea's family is very good at what they
Very
try,
good.
honestly, like
people.
they are very capable and they're very athletic. And so there is a natural competition that is a good thing. Like you have to be that way if you're going to be really successful in those kinds of sports.
Excellent.
And I think that along with that comes a high amount of there's structure. That's the word I was looking for. Structure within the family life that is, it's solid. It's not mushy in the way that I would say ours is. Ours is a lot mushier.
Little mush. Andrea's family is like a well-run, loving, kind, faithful business.
Yeah.
They're just like, doing the things.
Yeah.
They got the schedules. They got the skills. They've got the talent. They work hard for it. And like, they support each other in it. Like Andrea's always going to the kids' games. Well, and I don't know. I'm always a little torn if your kids stunk at sports like mine did. Maybe you want to go watch them so much, but they're so good that you don't have to make that choice.
It's actually fun to watch.
But like very supportive. I don't want to say a well-run business like heartless and cold.
Oh,
like
no.
it's kind, loving, wonderful. But like I just always look at them like someday you'll get there, Bethy.
Yeah.
And it's not true, but I say it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
I think Andrea's family culture is in many ways like the American ideal of what like a family culture looks
She
like.
does have 2 boys and 2 girls.
I know. Well,
That's why I stopped. I thought you
symmetrical.
can't get more perfect than that.
yeah. Well, that's that company coming out right there.
It's a business model, really, more than anything else.
So Andrea, does that match with how you think of your family? Like,
Well, I definitely think they're painting a much prettier picture than what is actually
right.
happening in our house.
No, we're not painting it pretty enough, honestly.
But, and I think that we do have a very good time in being competitive. That can be to a fault. Just barely, I spent a day with my recently married daughter, and she and her husband were talking about how they were playing pickleball just last week and how she was getting he was saying she was getting so mad at me. So it can go, it can be a negative, but I do think right before we got on this podcast, I was talking about some of the things that have happened in the last 6 months in our family. And it has changed my perspective a little bit because I do feel like I have always kind of been like, here's the plan. We're sticking with the plan. We're going to do this. I'm going to plan out this great vacation and da-da-da-da. And we've had some things that have kind of rocked our boat a bit in the last 6 months. And it has softened me a bit to the fact that you just go with the flow.
What? Who is this Andrea?
I know.
okay, let's go to Beth.
All right, I'm going first with Beth.
Go ahead. Andrea has some things she'd like to get off her chest.
I always go back to when we recorded our podcast and we were doing one of those question answer things, and you were describing what you would like and I was describing what I would like to be, and we realized we were like each other's person. And I feel the same way here, that Beth is just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Beth is like, there's not a schedule, but that sounds like a bad thing, but it's just like, we are just going to enjoy every moment, and we are going to love every moment. We're not going to worry about what happened in the past. We're not going to worry about what happened in the future. And I think her kids just embrace that, and they just have such a good time just loving being together and having fun and laughing and being crazy. And everyone wants to be a part of Beth's family.
Yeah, it's true.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if that's true, but thanks,
No,
guys.
100%. No, I think, if Beth's family had a motto, it would be, oh my gosh, let's do that. Because it's like whatever the fun thing is, they are in. And that's something that I feel like I really, really watched a lot, because we did how many years of podcasting
guys. I'm so sorry
Beth's
about
house in Grand Junction. And so Andrea and I were there, like in her house, watching everything.
Yeah.
Whereas like our kids weren't there, but Beth's kids were. And so we got to watch that. And that was something that I really loved. Was I felt like Beth's kids, because of this we're going to take it as it comes. We're going to enjoy it as it comes. They have a resilience
And flexibility.
and a flexibility that I think, one of the hard things about at least American culture is I think that we are so over-programmed and we feel like we can't change the program. We're so over-programmed that in many instances, I don't think kids are allowed to be kids anymore. I think they run from one thing they have to do to the next. And I think giving them opportunities to live in a way that is far more go after something that you want to do that makes you happy. I think that it is a wonderful thing, because I think that your kids have developed this really wonderful ability to take it as it comes and enjoy it in the way that their mom does. I mean, it's your superpower.
Wow, guys, thanks so much. I don't think you've been around my kids lately. They are not flexible or having any fun. They're a bunch of turds that are like, we don't want to do that.
It'll rub off in the end. They have to like shake
That's
off
their
the
core.
shackles of.
No, that it'll come around again.
Yes, it will.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Beth? Is there anything you want to add? How do you think of your family culture?
Well, I mean, if you guys want to believe that's my life, yes, please. I would love to agree with that all the time. I do think we prioritize adventure. Mm-hmm. We are very spontaneous, again, to a fault sometimes, like how maybe competitiveness can be to a fault. Our little spontaneity also creates some chaos in our lives, for sure. And I do think we try, to celebrate everything. We tried, everything is like unto a party, if at all possible. So I think that is true. We do try to just have a overall fun time. There may be some lack of structure and chores being done because of it, but we're just valuing the fun and the adventure and the spontaneity. So yes, thanks, girls. I think my family sounds great.
In my family, we talk a lot about the law of anecdotal return. We make decisions based on what will give us the best anecdotes. So, what will give us the best stories. So, if you're at a crossroads, pick the one with the best story.
There you go.
That's accurate.
100%.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, let's move on to Camille.
Oh, Camille.
There is none.
It is I was trying to think, Andrea, what is a very snuggly physical character? I don't know, a teddy bear, a bunch of thespian teddy bears. like these loving, the culture is this snuggly, feelings. Everyone can feel a feel about it. And then we'll make a movie and it'll be so funny. It'll be we're all going to talk about our feelings and hug, but then we're going to make this hilarious movie.
No, but the funny thing is, when I was thinking about Camille, I was like, I'm just going to say, which we all, of course, have unconditional love for our kids. But I think that Camille has a capacity to love just in a way that it really is everyone belongs, everyone's loved. It is the way you're trying to describe it, Beth, is hilarious, but it is perfect. And it is also Beth and my nightmare. We are not making a movie about our lives.
No.
I don't feel like I'm a big huggy, lovey person, but that is perfectly describes Camille.
Yes. I do love that you bring up the unconditional love, because I agree Camille loves her kids better than me and Andrea do, because we'll judge our kids a little bit. But Camille, she would love, and she'll love my kids. She's always when you guys were here, I'm always Paige is driving me nuts. And she's like, wow. That Paige, what a gem.
Yep.
She is so sweet. And I'm like, what are we talking? Are we talking about the same kid? Just so good and very, very accepting. Okay, they're teddy bears that are accepting and loving. And it's anything you want to do. Yes, let's do that. Oh, you want? You
and
think
I
that's
will
a good
fully
idea?
support it.
That's
and
amazing.
I'll make you amazing at it. Yeah, it's true.
Yes,
Oh, that's
just
lovely.
lots of love, so much love. So many feelings, but also hilarious. They're British. They're British teddy bears that are putting on a play
In Hollywood.
In Hollywood, and also up for the good time too, where it's just how can we make this a fun thing, even though there's hard things going on? We can still make it fun, and I love the
Paddington
unconditional
culture.
love piece. Paddington culture.
Paddington
Wow.
culture.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Camille wins. Camille's the winner.
Camille, you love everyone
You
best.
know that's not true. Oh my gosh.
It is.
So-
It is
so-
kind of true.
So, Camille, how would you describe your own family culture?
In many ways, I think the moms do drive the culture. And so, like I said, a lot of times what creates a culture is a mom's strength, maybe what she was raised with, and what she can lean into.
Mhm.
I think that one of the things that greatly determined how I grew up was that my mom had a very serious illness and was in a wheelchair. And at this point in my life, honestly, like especially as we quit the podcast, I have been on a major health battle of trying to get a chronic illness that I have under control. I mean, it really spiraled around the time, a year and a half into the podcast, 2 years in, is when things got really rough. And so for our family, I had to kind of make some choices of where can I put my energy, because I don't have unlimited energy. And the place that I decided that I had the energy and could put it was in just trying to love my kids.
Yes,
And
it's a good long-term plan.
that's my long-term plan there, is to try and keep those relationships. And so, you know, thanks to my husband, we do a lot of fun things like movies, and I love to have fun. I wish I had more energy. I wish that I could do more of the kinds of things that you guys get to do physically. And I'm trying to battle my way to that, but understanding that with that does come, I think, some things that are good for kids in each scenario. You know, Andrea, you've taught your kids how to go after things and be able to achieve those. Beth has taught her kids how to be open to flexibility and to laugh and have fun. And I've tried to teach my kids how to laugh even if things aren't perfect. You know, even if there's pain, even if there's hard things, let's take the moments that we have and let's try and laugh at them.
It's true. You do kind of, your personality is a big part of how you parent.
True.
Like, because otherwise, like, can you imagine if I was like myself, except when my kids came home and then I was like, we're going to go do some homework and sit now,
Yep.
children.
That
You're
would
like,
be
"What?
the worst.
That's weird. Who would ever do that? I would never say those words. Okay. I wouldn't. I'd be like, go out to the trampoline and jump and try to read while you're doing it. That's fine.
No, it's
Like,
true.
it's just,
It's
like
true.
who
It's
you
true.
are is who you are. And
It is.
sometimes it is makes it really difficult to be a parent
Mhm.
because you're still yourself, and like trying to build a culture around like who you and your spouse are as people that works for your family.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Well,
It is
and then
tricky.
every added person adds more to the culture. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have friends who have very calm children,
That's
and they
weird.
have a very different culture in their in their
Yeah.
family. Mine is a little more high strung.
Just different.
Every child brings a different dimension to the culture, and then they change as they grow up. So it's definitely not a static thing. We're always growing and changing in our culture but it is interesting to see. You know, David and I, we're both the oldest child, and we're both kind of rule followers, and maybe, I don't know if type A is the right characterization, but we thought we'd have kids who loved school and kids who loved to follow rules, and we didn't necessarily get those kids, and so we kind of got a different culture than we expected. But it's been lovely to see it unfold, and then the culture is kind of maybe the melding of all those personalities. Maybe that's where it comes.
Yeah,
in.
and then they go get married to people who
yeah.
like were raised outside of your home, and so that also adds to that culture, you know. And I think for some people that can be awful depending on who your kid marries, because but so far we've lucked out, and I've told all my kids, if you marry mean people, you're out. because you're going to ruin our family. So don't marry mean people. My first two, they've done really
Teddy
well.
bears
They've
only.
married really nice people.
Teddy
I know.
bears.
That's it.
British teddy bears.
Honestly, if they're not British teddy bears, they're out. Like you're out, they're out. The whole group
That
of you
doesn't
is out.
sound like what a British teddy bear would say.
It is what a British teddy bear
I'm
would
just
say.
kidding. Just kidding. Oh, so how much of culture do you guys think is deliberate? Like, do you do things deliberately to build your culture, to enhance your culture? Is a lot of it organic, or a little bit of both?
I think initially, I mean, it was very intentional. Like, I mean, those first two kids, I mean, we were shaping this family the way we wanted it to be, but I think that it's definitely become more organic. And at this point, we're just kind of, the wheels are in motion and the family's going. But I think from my perspective, it was very intentional in the beginning.
I agree.
There was a plan of what I wanted our family to be like and do and accomplish, and you know, both in school and church, you know, all those aspects that I think that in my mind I had to be intentional to be able to do those things.
I think you do, because you don't naturally, like, dinner doesn't just show up on the table organically, right? That's a very intentional thing. So like we say, like we try to give our kids hot breakfast and we try to have dinner together. Like we've done that for years and years, and we like, that's very intentional. And it's like the thing with that is, like, my idea was we'll have breakfast together, which will lead to prayers and loving conversation. Then we'll have dinner where everyone will talk to each other and catch up. And it's like, okay, well, right, the intention is still there. How it's being played out might not be playing out the same way, which can be really discouraging. And then you say, forget it. This doesn't work. We're not doing family scriptures. We're not having dinner together, because the way we have thought it through in our minds isn't really working out. And I think some things do need to be let go, where you think like, this is something we're going to do. And then you realize, actually, that's the worst. We're done doing that. But then I do think there are things where it's like, no, the intention is unity. The intention is a time where we are together. Okay, that piece of the intention is still being met, even though there's a lot of disaster surrounding it. Is it worth keeping or not? And I think a lot of times we just keep it because we realize that if we don't do that, when else are we going to get together? So I guess we just have to keep doing it this way, or, you know? So I think it is a combo of like natural personality coming through and these intentional things you're trying to set up with your kids that create a culture.
And I don't think it's bad for that culture to be in an ever-changing metamorphosis.
For sure.
You know, you have different kids at different ages. And, you know, my oldest kids tell stories about things that we did that we haven't done that in eons, you know, because maybe we decided it wasn't worth it and it was a stupid idea, but maybe we just
too tired.
Maybe we just got too dang tired, you know, and so we don't do it. And so like I saw a great post from a teacher here in town who works at the middle school, and she said, parents, if you want to help your kids be a better reader, if you want to help them to be a better learner, if you want to help them to be all these things, play board games with your kids, because families don't do that anymore. And they learn so many skills. And I thought, good heavens, we don't play board games. What happened? And so I've been trying to reintroduce that kind of a thing, because we used to do that a lot, and I did see the value of that. And so I think there's just this morphosis that happens, and sometimes we think that if we change, we're abandoning, you know, and we're letting go of culture, but we're not. We're changing with the way our family is morphing, and that change is okay.
Yeah. As long as your end goal, I think that's what's important. You don't change that end goal, but it might look different the day to day.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I'm fascinated by is just looking at the different like senses of humor in different families and the inside jokes that people have, or even the vernacular they use. And I came across the word families a while ago, the kind of the language that you have in your family. And the first thing that came to my mind is when I married my husband, I called him weird one day, and in my family, that was like a term of endearment. Like if you call somebody weird, it's like, oh, I love that. You're like a cute little weirdo, you know, like, oh, you're so weird. It means like, I love you. And he was like, you just call me? Like, he was offended. Like, what did you just call me? Like, I mean, he
Wow,
was
that's the only thing you called him,
super
because
offensive.
I called Danny something once, and apparently it's offensive to all families. I didn't know.
well, my family just had harsher language, but it was in love and jest. So you should just, even sometimes the things that we call each other, or the language we use is specific to families. Can any of you think of any specific things in your families?
We speak movie lines to each other. I mean, it is
We
like
do.
With an
one of the-
English accent.
I know, honestly, we were playing Bang. It's a card game. It's really funny. My oldest kids love it. And we were playing Bang, and we had all of our kids together. All of us were there. And oh my goodness, like all of the kids were just bouncing off of each other and using movie lines from all of these random movies. And we were laughing so hard. And I remember my dad used to come and eat with us, and we would just be talking normally the way we do, using funny movie lines, and my dad thought we were lunatics. He had no idea what we were talking about, because to some it may sound like a different language.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Paige and Carson just came home. They're 14 and 16. And they were like, Mom, I was talking about this baby with my friends, and they say they don't want to hurt babies. And I was like, what did you say to him? And he's like, we just said, like, I just want to grab him and bite his arm off and just punch him in the face, which is how we would talk about a really cute baby. Like, we're always like, don't you just want to take a baby and just kick him right over a field goal? Like, that is common, like very common language when we see an adorable baby. And he's like, they're both like, yeah, we were just saying it with our friends. And they were all like, what are you talking about? And they're like, because it's cute. And I was like, no, I get it. And they were just so funny. They both just came home and they're like, we were just saying how cute he is. And I was like, I know, but can you also see how that could be a little terrifying to others? But like, from little until older, we all understand this passion for babies. And you don't think about it until you say it in public, and they're like, what? Why would you say that? Something so horrible. So that is one thing apparently is unique to our family, is like intense violence towards adorable children. I don't know. They're so cute. Anyone else?
I guess one thing no, we don't do that. And remind me not to bring my grandbabies around to your little kids.
No, they're so cute. I just want to They're so cute.
But when you talk about the families, I was thinking, you know how you kind of observe other families and you just think, oh, I like their culture, or I like their culture. And, and you kind of compare it to how you grew up or how you think your current family culture is. And one thing that I just really liked was when families could just joke with each other and not tiptoe around and be worried about offending. And so I just thought, I want to be that kind of mom. And I want my kids to be like that, where they can joke around and be like, you're not going out like that. Like, you look like an idiot. Or that, that siblings can talk to each other without them crying and saying, Mom, Shay just barely told me that my shoes are stupid. Like, I want them
like
to be
they
able
are
to
stupid.
feel, yes,
She's
exactly.
not wrong.
Like, I want them to know, like, to me, that is my love. I'm expressing my love when I'm talking slightly aggressive. Yeah, I just want them to be comfortable with us being not brutally
Real.
honest, but yes, with
Yes.
being real. It's okay. You're still loved, even if we can kind of joke about something completely embarrassing that happened to you today at school.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really healthy. I like that.
But what's interesting about that is, like, my family's very much like that. I married a family who you ought not say anything but kind, very tiptoey things to around sometimes. So then you go in thinking like you're weird is an acceptable term to
Right,
use, or
right.
like your hair looks crazy and it's like weeping, and you're like, wait, what just happened? So it does create a level of difficulty when you like combine two very different
Yeah.
cultures. I only want it more right now that my family was a little bit like that. I married someone who was less like that. I'm like, no, we got to make sure we're really like that, where we're not tiptoeing around. We just say things, but we know we love each other. And like watching other families is a big part of how we decide, like, how do we want, or our own experience.
We probably all started out a little judgy, like, especially before you have kids, and you're like, well, I'm not going to do like that family. I'm not going to do like that family. And now I can truly see things in any family that I can admire, like, pretty much any family. But it is interesting how it starts out like well, I'm going to do this and I'm never going to do that.
Mhm.
And then you realize, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, kids. Oh.
Mm.
Oh, that's why. Yes.
Personalities, life, choices, finances. Like there are so many things
Yeah.
playing into how we're responding and reacting that,
Mhm.
and I think about like early on, so I have like 16-year-old and then this 6-year-old, and I'm going to be honest, guys, the 6-year-old is not the best. He's tough. Camille, you would love him though, unconditionally.
I would love
I
him.
judge him harshly.
He's so
And-
cute.
Stop it. And like he does things, and my older 3 all have the same narrative.
Yes.
If I would have done that when I was that age, but like they're like, you would have lost your mind. We would have been in so much trouble. And I'm like, part of that narrative is just not true. Like, you
Right.
remember
Yeah.
incidents that you
Yes.
don't remember every time, and part of it is just that change and realizing like, wow, there are so many different personalities, and some of the things we did with you guys actually wasn't the best. Like, sorry about that. I
Right.
apologize.
Yeah.
But they're old enough to be aware and watch this difference happening, and they're
Yes.
like, wait a second, like that's not how it used to be.
Yeah, actually, I'm just
And-
more patient and better at being a
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah, and I've like changed and grown, but there's some resentment. Like, wait a second, I was in timeout, therefore they must be in timeout, or whatever it is.
The whole
But, yeah,
fairness
it is-
thing that it doesn't exist.
Yes, yeah, and it just changes. It just like this maturing and this changing and this realizing that like you're not the same parent or probably the same culture as you were when you started raising kids 20 years ago, right?
100%.
That's okay.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've only
so-
gone downhill, honestly.
I doubt it. So I'd love to know some of the like deliberate things you've done to try and change the culture in your home. And I'll start just so you guys can think. So there was a time in the ages of our children where I have 4 boys and 1 girl. And so there was a lot of like physical violence against each other in our home. Not anything like deadly.
Sure.
But there was fights got physical. I should say physicality instead of violence maybe, but there was some violence too.
Go with violence.
Yeah.
It's way more interesting.
And hitting each other, pushing each other, wrestling, but getting past the playful point of wrestling, where you're out for blood. And I actually had to put up a sign in our kitchen that was like, like at a industrial site where you're like, we have gone 0 days without violence or without hurting each other or something.
Blood.
So that was one of my attempts at changing that, just like bringing it to their awareness. And luckily, sometimes the only thing that changes that kind of culture is time and maturity. But that was just the idea that sprang to my mind of how I was trying to deliberately change that culture of violence too.
I love that.
I need to put one of those in my kitchen. I still have
Yeah.
violent little boys.
Yeah,
so this
there you
is,
go.
this is good. It's been 3 minutes without violence. Congratulations.
Well, I'll share one. I hope I'm not like betraying my children, but
I can't wait.
genetically, my children, I cannot understand how this is genetic, okay, but it is clear that it is. And let's just say, hypothetically, it doesn't come through my side of the family. But that may not be true. Of course it is, but it may not. So they genetically run everything through a filter. Everything they hear that someone is saying, it goes through this filter of, do I agree 100% with that? And if the answer is not 100%, then they feel it is their duty to express words like, well, that's not necessarily true. And actually, statistically, well, okay, so see how loving I am? See how teddy bear I am?
You are a big teddy bear, Paddington.
Yeah, so then they say these things. And I think I swear my 20, almost 5 years as a mom, like I have had to fight against this because it's not good for relationships. It puts people on the defensive when they're just trying to talk. And then they're told that that's not exactly accurate. And so that's something that I've tried to be really intentional about. It peaks right around middle school. And then hopefully we can sail on down into the the goal of adulthood and hopefully not doing that as much. But that's something that like I've really had to have a lot of discussions over. So I just barely took the kids for spring break. We just went on a little overnight thing, just myself and the kids, and we're sitting there at breakfast in the hotel, and this starts, and I was like, for the love, you guys, can we just please talk about why we communicate to either build or ruin relationships at all times. Literally, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're either building or we're destroying in our words. And so when you're with other people, constantly running through a filter of that is not great for relationships. And so like we talk about it, and I will lay out things like, if you don't stop immediately, we're going home. And then I'm serious in the moment. And then they really did stop for the day, thank goodness, because they were going to kill me. But I think those are those teaching moments, right? Where you're saying, I can see that my kids, for one reason or another, have a propensity toward this. And this is something that's worth it to me, because I think in their life, this is harmful to not balance this with good communication skills. And so I'm going to spend the time and effort it takes. But yeah, I think we choose those things.
Yeah. And just determine like who do we want to be? What's worth correcting, and what are we going to just maybe grow out of? Yeah.
Guess when I think of mine, it's something that I have to change myself, because I'm not a Camille. I am not a lovey-dovey person. I'm not a big hugger. But that was another one of those things that I saw in other families that I thought, I want my family to be lovey and close. And as I've added 2 in-laws this last year, I thought I want to find a way for everyone to connect. And I've been fortunate. I have 2 great son-in-laws, but I thought, how do we keep us together as our family gets bigger and we bring in people from different cultures? And so I have really had to like force myself to hug. And when my adult kids come home and give them a big hug, and when they leave, give them a big hug, give those in-laws hugs. And then we have a group chat that goes, and just making sure that I am on that group chat, telling everyone I love them, and not being afraid to say those words that that's not the way I express love, but I want to be that kind of person, and I want my family culture to be that. So I am trying to help improve that in our family culture.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
That is a good
Love it.
example.
I was thinking that same thing too, of just like the things that are not natural, like really pushing yourself to try. Like same, I didn't grow up like lots of I love yous and hugs and kisses. And now we try really hard. And I always kind of am thrown off when my kids are like, bye mom, I love you. And I'm like, oh, they just say it. Like, that's weird, right? Like, I didn't ever say that to my parents until it was like, I think they might die soon. Okay, I love you.
I feel like
it was
pushing
just
it toward
like,
you too.
yeah, I like you a lot. I remember when Danny and I first got married, his family says I love you all the time. And they would say, we love you, Beth. And I would panic and I would say, I like you a lot. And they're like, okay. I said that for years before I finally could just be like, I love you too. And now every time I talk to him, I love you. It's like become natural. But I'm telling you, you ask any Millward and they'll be like, oh no, she had years of I like you a lot. And like, because it was so wildly uncomfortable to me. And I think that way too about like having like uncomfortable conversations. I don't mind it with adults. I'll say, basically anything. When my kids come around and I'm like, well, I don't know why you should do that. I don't talk to your dad. I've made up lots of weird things to get out of uncomfortable conversations. And just like that's a personal problem. Like I am uncomfortable with that, but I see the value in having really good, deep conversations with your kids. And so then just trying to make it, even though you're full of it, just trying to make it look normal and feel, like, oh no, it's not a big deal to me. What do you want to talk about? I'm cool. I'll talk about anything. But it takes a lot of internal work to just try to change this culture that is not comfortable for you. It's not your like normal thing. Which is like, seems silly because it's like, it's just a hug. What's the big deal? Or it's just saying I love you. But if you didn't grow up that way, it feels really uncomfortable. Yeah. And just being willing to be uncomfortable to have that different kind of culture.
Yeah. One thing I've seen on social media lately is people talking about, are you a living room family or a bedroom family? Have you seen that?
Oh, what does
Whoa.
that mean?
When you come home from school, is everybody going to their separate rooms, or does everybody hang out? I guess it's where the default is, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you default to the living room in a shared space, or do you default? And every family's going to have some of both for different things.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to decompress right after school, but so I've been noticing that, and especially with teenagers, we've been moving from that living room culture to the separate rooms culture, and I don't want that to be our culture. I liked it when all the little kids just all played together. I mean, sometimes you needed your separate space, but I love it when we do all hang out for the whole evening or something like that. You do dinner, and then everybody doesn't just scatter. You stay and hang out. And having a deck, we got a new deck, and that has helped. When it gets warm, we all hang out on the deck, and it was wonderful. Last summer was great for that. But I've just been trying to be more deliberate about, like, no, stay, grab a guitar, like, let's hang out more instead of just going to our screens or separate ways.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if any of you were able to come up with some experiments that our listeners could try to enhance their family cultures.
I guess one experiment I would say that I just thought after you asked us about our family culture is we've kind of talked about how we all have all four of us, we have our things that we're comfortable with and our strengths, but I think we all have things that we would like to improve or we recognize in each other's family culture that we would like to incorporate. So I guess I would just say, find that one thing when you notice that family, maybe it's in, church, that you think, wow, they're really great at that. I would like to try that. Like, try it. Like, what little thing can you do? Maybe it is hugging your family more. Maybe you see that they are really good at having breakfast together, dinner together, or, you hear that, or whatever it is. Like, just try one thing. What's one thing that you can do that would get you closer to that goal of family culture that you want to continue to work on?
That is great. And it ties right into my first experiment. So I'll share that. So we actually did that as a family, and I gathered all the kids together, and I said, okay, I want you each to think of a family that you admire and tell me, like, just use 2 or 3 words that describe that family. What do you think of when you think of that family? And we had everybody go around and just identify that. And, sometimes people picked the same family or, and then I'd say, okay, now what do you think we're known for? Like, what do you think other families would say if they were describing us? It's kind of like we did at the beginning there.
Yeah. Except like nice people or mean people describing us, because there's difference.
I mean, it could be a good time for self-reflection. Like, what do you think people,
Friend or foe.
what's their beef with us? I don't know. But it was interesting to see what my kids came up with and who they admired, and because it's kind of it was very interesting. Because for the most part, they did choose different families, and it made for a really good discussion. So that would be my experiment, is to have that discussion with your family.
Ooh, good one. Yeah, I think that wins. I don't know. Because what's so weird is, like, what I was thinking of, like, this, like, idea of, like, just do it. And because, like, I remember when we had all those little kids and it was like, we should go camping. Oh my gosh, no, this is kids not sleeping. This is it. Or like, we should fly with them somewhere. Oh, this is going to do this. And at some point we were just like, you know what? We just have to do it. Like, these are things we want to do, and we have all the excuses not to because they're little and they're napping and they're this and I have to work and you have to do that and, blah, blah, blah. And Danny is not like me at all. Danny wants to be in Andrea's family. He wants it so badly. He just sits and he dreams of the day that there's an organized person happening here and there's rules being followed. Like, he desires that. I'm just louder than him and a little stronger, guys. And no, just joking. I'm not stronger. He's strong. That one I'll say he's strong. But like, at some point we just had to say, like, okay, do we want to do these things with our kids. Like in our imaginary world, is that something we'd want? Yeah, we do want to be a family who goes out and does stuff. So we just have to do it and just know it's not going to be awesome all the time. But if we do it enough, right? Like we flew our kids all over the world for 3 years before it wasn't horrible. And it was like, oh, okay, we got it. This is really fun. And that's something we love now. And I think like this idea of waiting for a convenient time or waiting for their ages or waiting
until you're
for the
good
money
at
or,
it.
Yes, or until suddenly we are amazing at road trips. It's like you get good at it because you do it. And so like just not letting this fear and anxiety around what you want hold you back, to just say, okay, let's just do it. It doesn't mean you do everything right now, like Andrew was saying. Just find one thing or talk about other families that you really like and say, okay, let's just try it. Let's just do it. And might be a disaster, but maybe the end goal is what we want. Ow. Sorry, I just punched like a baby, I just punched the table.
Well, I think these all just really go well together. I think that one of the most important parts of maybe adding to culture is to say, what is that really important end goal? Where are we wanting to get? Whether that be, Andrea saying, well, I want to hug more, right? That is part of that end goal of what do I want this family to be like? And Beth saying, well, we want to travel. We want our kids to see these things. And that's a really important end goal. I think that's really an important step to not leave out, because there are so many good things that all of us could add. And if too many things are gone after, then none of them happen. And like I'm the queen of that, I'm a big ideas person. And so I'll start off with this big idea. We're going to change everything. This is going to be amazing. I want to go outside more. So let's just live out there. Like, let's stop going
Burn
inside.
down the house. Let's commit.
Let's do this, like that's one of mine right now is I want us to be outside more. We're just inside too much. We need to be outside more. And it's just like me to be like, okay, duct tape the door. Like we're done with inside. And so not going too big, but to say, what is the purpose of changing that culture? Does that purpose fit in with what our end purpose is? And if so, how are we going to go about that in a way that's really actually achievable? And so, saying, I go back to this all the time. And I was just sharing this with someone, with just a friend, was that podcast that we did when they were talking about how, you fall into one of these parenting characteristics, and instead of fighting that all the time, settle in where you're at, but then lean towards something you want. And a lean is something that all of us can do. And so I think it goes with all of those to say, what is that big goal? Great. Does this fit in with it? Does this idea, is that going to be worth us establishing as a habit? Because it takes a lot of time, like Beth said, 3 years of traveling before you feel like we've got this, Give yourself enough time.
Yeah. Things like my husband and I both grew up skiing and loved skiing and we wanted to become a skiing family. And holy cow, is that a commitment? There's a lot of terrible back-breaking labor on bunny slopes to get all your kids up skiing. But now we've got it, and my daughter just did a backflip, and it was awesome.
Wow.
She's 12.
Stop it! I am trying to peer pressure my kids, but no one will do it. They're so cautious. Like, come on, backflip. They won't.
Okay, so another one that I had was, so a lot of these we do we have a family retreat every year. So we talk a lot about this, like once a year, and kind of refocus our family culture and, make our timeline with our future plans and all that stuff, every Labor Day. But, one of the things we do almost every time is we just revisit our list. They're not, I guess they're family mottos, but it's like, describing us, like Archibald's try new things, Archibald's play outside, Archibald's bike, Archibald's ski, Archibald's play music, like just the things we do, and just like lay it out there, like what is our culture. And we just like, I mean, you can't get very, very specific about what we do and what we are. Archibalds are kind. It's not all the physical things that we do. It's
we jump, we run.
yeah. But that the one we say the most is Archibald's try new things, and part of it is defining it at first, but then just re-emphasizing that when the need arrives, and having some short phrases and mottos actually really helps.
I love that. I love this like super intentional. I've gotten less intentional over the years because I got busy, right? I started my master's program like a dummy, and all of a sudden I was out of the home 40 hours a week. I'd never done that before. And you find that lots of the things that made your family was because of like what you were doing there. Like I was home and available and I was kind of pushing this. And then when I was gone, all of a sudden some of these things fizzled. And like, I'm just remembering, and I'm loving your reminder of like a lot of this stuff is super intentional, and like making a retreat and saying, hey, a culture can happen, but it's likely not what you want, right? Like life keeps happening, kids still have behaviors, adults still do their thing. It's just probably not exactly what you want, but that like intentional piece of saying like, you don't start skiing, right? I didn't take my kids up to the hill and all of them just put their ski, and myself included. We couldn't do it. It took lots and lots of practice. It was very intentional for us to all learn. And now we do it and it's so fun. But like you get busy and life still keeps happening. But I think it's a good reminder to like your culture is still happening. You just might not like it, and changing it is intentional.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go on a retreat. All that to say, while we were talking, I booked a hotel in Mexico.
Yes. It is amazing how much those kinds of things stick with kids, because, you know, now that we've got 3 out of the home, our daughter, years ago, when my oldest was probably 12, we did do an intentional, we're going to list the things that we want our family to be, and we're going to create a motto, like we're a company. And so we did create this: we laugh, work, and play together. We love, forgive, and serve one another. I can't remember the last 2; they're out there, but
those 2 don't matter.
They don't really matter anymore.
Oh,
but it was interesting because I've had my oldest kids refer back to that quite a lot, and in fact, my daughter in one of her college classes had to do something about the importance of motto. And so she's a business major, and so she talked about that, and she like had us give our input into that. So I think that those kinds of things are important in order to understand that that's going to mean something to those kids for years to come, and they refer back to it.
One thing I meant to ask earlier but didn't is how do you think traditions play into culture?
I love traditions. Let's have a tradition for everything.
Did I just cue her up or what?
It was funny because I texted my like friends, because I don't actually have a brain, and Danny was working, so he didn't respond. So I had to text my other friends and be like, hey guys, so what's my culture of my family? Because I don't know. And they're like, traditions. You just make a tradition out of literally everything. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it's tradition. I don't get it. And they're like, but other people don't do that. But I think, like, I don't know what they have to do with culture, except it's just become what we do a lot of. But I just think like traditions make it easy to remember to do things together.
Yes.
Like it's already this assigned thing. Like I don't know why a leprechaun's going to come and put candy in my shoes. He just does. And now we all know it and we look forward to it. And it's just like this thing that like if we have a tradition basically every month of the year, it's kind of like this built-in part of your family culture that you just know is going to come, and you don't have to try to think of anything because you don't know why it happens. A leprechaun just comes. So like I just love traditions because I think it's hard for me to think of things, and these like things that we just do because whatever started it, it's just an easy button. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, here comes that tradition. I don't have a choice. I just do it.
I think that they are so binding. I mean, just at Valentine's Day, my daughter sent a picture that she had made heart pancakes, because I always make pink heart pancakes on Valentine's Day. And it just did my heart so good to know that she has her own little family, and she didn't have food coloring, so they weren't pink. And my other daughter was like, where's the pink? Like, you just know, like that's what we do. And it just is something that binds you together, and they can be so simple, but if you just do them all the time, my kids remind me, and even as adults, they want these little traditions that I thought were really stupid when they were little, but we still do them every year, and I love it.
It does crack me up, like when my teenage kids are still like asking for things like that I thought they would, I don't know, like, you know, we do like Santa's workshop at Christmas and like Danny dresses up like Santa Claus, and my 16-year-old's like, hey, are we going to start Santa's workshop soon? Like, can I earn some Santa bucks? And I'm like, you're 16. He's like, so when do we start earning Santa bucks? And I'm like, and I just like, I think like they grow out of it and it's like, no, they don't. They still love it. It's just this fun things, and every time it comes up, and my older kids especially are excited about it, it just really like makes me even more excited because I'm like, oh, they like it still, yay! It's just so fun.
Well, traditions are worth fighting for. I mean, there's been all sorts of, with the disintegration of the family within the world that we live in, there's been so many studies now that have shown that kids do better when they have tradition and when they feel connected to their family, and not just their family right now, but ancestrally. Like, where did they come from? What were those ancestors like? I mean, all sorts of science is showing that it makes a profound difference in a child's life to feel like they have somewhere where they truly belong. And whether that be like a Paddington Bear situation, or whether that be, I'm going to beat your butt in this sport, and also those shoes are stupid, or whether they be cancel school.
They all feel good.
Cancel school, we're going skiing. Okay, like whatever it is, that's where they belong, and they know they do. And that's really what matters. And that's why, like, there's really not a right way and a wrong way. That's one of the things that I loved about doing the podcast together, that I feel like was so beneficial with three of us that were so different, is that it made it so clear that there wasn't a right way and a wrong way. There was your way and your family's way. And that can morph and that can change. But the bottom line is everybody belongs. Everybody's a part of that. And that it's a good thing for them. And for us.
Yeah.
Oh, Camille, you just gave us a conclusion. Good work. that was a beautiful way to sum up the whole thing.
Thank you for listening to the Family Lab podcast. Tune in next week for one of my quarterly updates on the experiments that we've been trying in the Archibald home. Thanks to my assistant, Bailey Blake, for all the hard work she does. And of course, thanks to my mom, Susan Singley, for playing the theme music for my podcast. She used to play this song all the time when we were kids, and to me, it's like the soundtrack of motherhood.